Survivor Worlds Apart finale. Definitely one of the less spectacular finales that this show has had, to be honest, although it is definitely better than the Blood vs. Water finale, because at least here the boot order wasn't as predictable, although the challenges really were not exciting, whereas there, they were fairly exciting, I think, yeah. Okay, so jumping in, everybody just leaves Mike in the dark again, although Carol incorrectly deduces that it was Mike. Oh, maybe that was the Alliance telling her. Whatever, it doesn't matter. And so, it's everyone versus Mike again. And then since they go directly to, like, the reward challenge after that, it gives the impression that they didn't rehide the idol, which I find kind of shocking because there were 2 days that they could have found it, and in the previous episode, Jeff didn't say that it was the last time the idol could have been played, although, actually wait, in Kagayan they re-hit it. Never mind, I was gonna say that they probably wouldn't have re-hidden it since they were free, but whatever, yeah. So, that was actually a pretty nice challenge that they did for the loved ones visit, and it was actually rather amusing to see Will actually, doing well in a challenge for once, but then you saw him spill, and then you saw Sierra spill, and then you saw Mike make it with his second stack, and like, I knew that if Mike got to the tile sorting area first, it would probably be his to lose, because while I think the patterns on the tiles could be a tad bit confusing if you just breathe and calm down. It's quite easy, I think, to separate them, and then when you've got the last 3 numbers, well, there's only 6 combinations you could have, and Mike did either 3 or 4 combinations. He had that big of a head start, yeah. So not only does he get a visit from his mother, he also gets an advantage in the next immunity, and I gotta be honest, I think I'm getting closer to jumping on the bandwagon of being against these advantages for immunities, or at least advantages for the final 5 thing. I feel like, if they have it in the auction, where the double vote was in place as they've done in past seasons, that's not as big of a deal because it's one challenge and there's still hurdles to go, but giving an advantage for one of the final hurdles, or in the case of Philippines and Caramon, the final hurdle? Right, and I gotta admit, having the loved ones visit be during the finale, it really takes a lot away from it. I mean, like, I am definitely happy to see the castaways interact with people from the outside world. It helps humanize them, but I didn't really feel that much here, although it was definitely better than how I felt in Caramel, let me tell you, because when I saw that loved ones bit, I just had no emotion whatsoever. Pardon me, what's up with that? So, yeah, it was better. Might be another thing that Jeff's looking to phase out of the show, though, like he did with the intros, although that's not really a big deal, especially since a few seasons you could predict who won based on the intros. Trust me, I did that for Redemption Island. And then there was the last rites, which was absent. Yeah, I really missed that. I mean, for crying out loud, the last time we did last rites was Caramon, and that last rites just sucked. Really. The last good one that we had was One World. Okay. Enough about that. So, given how he had that advantage and kind of was able to remember a little bit of how the maze worked, especially since he obviously, did have a glance twice of what the maze looked like, it did make sense that Mike would be able to get farther along, and yeah. That's not to say that it could have backfired against him, but the thing was, everybody in that maze took, like, the cautious approach. If you walked a lot faster through that maze, maybe somebody would have beaten him, but, like, I knew that once he got the 4th medallion, that he had it. There was no question about that, although I was glad about that, because if he had been voted out day 37, that really would have cut his story arc short, and this season would have had, like, a gaping hole, like when Spencer got voted out of Cagayan on day 37, I felt like there was a huge hole missing from the season. Now, I did kind of feel that way when Malcolm got voted out of Philippines, but for him, it was the last tribal, and also I knew that Denise automatically had the win after he was gone, so that wasn't nearly as big of a deal. Right. Okay, so after Mike wins it, it becomes clear that it's either Rodney going, which makes sense because he's the more outspoken person out of Will and himself, and also Will's done social controversies, while Rodney has just done more game issues, even though it is through the mouth rather than just bad decision making and that kind of thing. Because, yeah, the move he kept claiming to make, he didn't really make it this episode, although, arguably, based on the interviews that I heard everybody give, it did seem like he planted the seeds in Mike's head to get rid of Sierra, which I felt was kind of shocking when they first started showing it, but then I was getting the feel of the episode and such, and I go, yeah, I think she's gone, just that would explain the lack of edit, even though apparently, according to her and Mike, she was definitely very good at the challenges and apparently did play a little more influence in the Blue Collar original tribe than we thought. Yeah. So, turns out Jeff actually was somewhat right in that she was a dark horse, but what dark horse traditionally implies, at least from my perspective, is that you start off with nothing and then climb to a higher position. Well, here, it just seemed like everybody had a something and that they were exercising it. It was just her something getting bumped down. At least that's what I got. But I still definitely do think I shot myself in the foot for trusting Jeff. Yeah. Why did I do that? I knew I was setting myself up for something. I mean, like, for crying out loud, I cannot count how many times I saw the comments at the end of last season going, Jeff's saying that the next season is going to be the best ever? It's not going to be good, people. Nobody trusts Jeff, even though we can't imagine really anybody else hosting this show. Really, we can't. And I'll be honest, there is a part of me that really does like complaining about what he does on here sometimes. Right? So that pretty much sums it up. Sierra goes, after she also does a little bit of shooting herself in the foot at Tribal, admitting that she is better at challenges, which is the main reason Mike switched the vote, but Ronnie didn't make a point. Sierra had pissed off no people on that jury at all. Heck, even Dan patted her, saying good luck, even though he was looking at Rodney when he did that. So then the Day 38 challenge, I really was nervous doing that challenge because even though everybody was getting, pretty tired and Mike had a good lead at one point, people managed to catch up. And that puzzle, where you've got all the irregular holes and such, that's a tough challenge, especially since not only do you have to figure out which piece, you have to figure out which end of the piece goes in, so it's double the possibilities. Because I'm willing to wage, I think that puzzle piece was about 9 or 10 pieces, so if you get the first one in, you have a 1 in 18 or 17 shot of, putting in the right thing. That's tough. It really is. I would think that assembling the staircase challenge that they did in Redemption Island and South Africa Champions would definitely be easier than that. Yeah, but in the end, Mike managed to pull out the win after Carolyn got fairly close. I mean, she was halfway through the puzzle, but he flew on ahead and earned his 5th individual immunity, thereby putting him in the club of most individual immunities won in a season, not consecutively, although it doesn't really matter because, as I stated in Kagayan episode 11 video, I think it was, the record for individual immunities in a season, both consecutive and non-consecutive, is 5. So yeah, that puts him in the club with Colby Donald, Sin, Terry, Tom. Was there one other? I don't think so. Right, and it's fairly impressive how, he had that falling out with his alliance, but always managed to save himself and be responsible for the actions of the last couple of vote-offs, because, he started planting the seeds to Carolyn that he wants to see her be there, which confirmed a theory that I had going in, that provided he kept winning, Mike was probably sure that he could beat anybody, and even if he lost, it would get the people that he more wanted to see win there, because, well, just I think he's revealed it all to us at this point if you've been listening to the interviews, and I'll be honest, I didn't actually listen to all of them back to front. I definitely did some skimming because, well, there's so much more content after the finale. So I was kind of nervous about Mike shooting himself in the foot, but I was glad in the end that he helped out Carolyn because, you know, not only was he on the outs of his own alliance, not, you know, the other people in the game, he ended up taking the person that was his strongest threat to the end, because Carolyn was the best out of all the white collars there. But yeah, that was just one crazy file-making challenge, how they just kept breaking it. You should listen to Tyson's rant about that on Rob Sisternino's Know-It-Alls video. He doesn't, I think, get to everything because the video Rob has cuts off at some point. You have to go to his website and actually listen to it there. But in the end, Carolyn actually managed to pull it out and sends Rodney home, that close to the end. And I gotta admit, I did actually feel sorry for him, like I did with Sierra and Dan, because I felt like there was a tad bit of a hole into the season, and it goes to show, every time a blue collar left, the dynamics of the game shifted significantly for everybody there. Yeah, and also, Rodney, you never won anything. You didn't win a single individual reward or immunity, nor did you get invited on any reward, and you didn't even win a fire challenge. So had you either won that challenge or gotten Carolyn voted out, you would officially have been the fourth person and the first male to get to day 39 without winning or being on anything in the individual stage. Ah, what a club to be in, Rodney. Yeah, bro. Okay. And it is kind of shocking that we had 3 blue collars eliminated right at the end, because before last episode, a blue collar going was a very rare thing. Yeah. So that day 39 and a tribal, like with last season, a fairly unspectacular tribal, though that's just because so much other stuff happened this season and was going to happen at the reunion that they just had to cut it short. I mean, like, everyone's speeches was more about tell everybody the correct things and then I'm going to do my vote, or it was a few select people telling the jury to do this. Because Jen's route, we've seen people do that before, and Sharon, she kind of did it, although she was a lot less biased, because I sincerely thought that she was going to be voting for Carolyn. The same thing with Tyler. Because after all those speeches were over, I seriously thought that Carolyn was going to win the season, and I wouldn't have been opposed to that, but it's one situation where, kind of like, I don't want to give away any examples to people who haven't seen the seasons, but it's like other examples of Survivor and Big Brother, where in one case you've got the person whose gameplay has been obvious and out there, and despite being flawed, you can trace it from start to finish and know what's going on in that person's head, or you've got the person who's played the more secretive game, has committed far less errors, but people have been kind of unsure about it. It's kind of like the Sophie and Coach situation, even though it's a little different here. So there you go, there is one example that I can give you. And in this case, even though I did expect the more secretive game to win, I just felt like it would have been better for the more obvious game to take it, even though it is definitely flawed. But in the end, Mike gets 6 out of the 8 jury votes, and yeah, once I saw that everybody got a vote, I'm like, okay, so this means that everybody else voted for one of them, so we only need 4 votes here, and I was right. But it's kind of ironic in my mind, because the only people that voted against Mike are the blue collars, who were the people that he wanted to take along for almost the entire season. Just woo there, huh? Right. Yeah, but I do think that that was the right decision, because, like, Mike, he engineered the alliance that consisted of all the blue collars plus Tyler Carolyn, and even though Rodney got Will managed to give a good amount of respect to Mike, although I think if he had been on the jury, he probably would have voted for Rodney over Mike if he was there, but if neither, I mean, Will or Rodney were there, Will probably would have done Mike, I think. I don't know what. It doesn't really matter. He had no shot of winning this game, although Rodney throwing away his vote to Will, just really, dude, this is almost as bad as Ralph throwing his vote to Philip in Redemption Island, even though Philip did, I think, kind of deserve it over Natalie, but that is only based on the fact that I've seen Caramone. Okay, and it's almost as bad as Carter voting for Scoopin' in Philippines. I say almost as bad because unlike the other two jury voters I mentioned, Rodney at least, was playing the game, because based on everything that I've been hearing in all the videos and such, he did have a game. It was just nothing really worked out in his favor, and also I gotta be honest, out of the three mean guys, I want to say blue collar men, but Mike isn't really a mean guy, even though he definitely has his haters. So out of the three mean guys, Dan, Will, Rodney, I think Rodney we're honestly gonna forget about, to be honest. And I mean, like, I'm kind of feeling a little bit bad about what I've been doing for people being received negatively, because I've been thinking about my behavior this season and remarks that I made to other people in previous seasons for making bad gameplay moves, such as Culpepper, Philip, and one other nomination. Okay, well, Joe. Well, yeah. I made some bad remarks about him. I'm looking at them compared to the remarks that I've been making towards the blue collar guys. This definitely is the blue guys comparison that I'm doing here, and I go, I was pretty hard on Philip, Culpepper, and Joe for making flaws, big or small, in those social and thinking games, that kind of thing. But I'm giving the free blue collar guys virtual free passes when they're causing a lot of issues with social problems that exist outside of the game? So I'm starting to think that I was a little bit bad in my criticism there, even though it has been revealed that tons of people out there were playing the game. It's just not what really the edit showed us. Yeah, this is definitely one time that I wish we could kind of change reality and take this cast to put them in the Big Brother house. I think we would be a lot more okay with them there, because yeah, this is definitely one time I will say that this wasn't Survivor, this was Big Brother, people. Yeah, not that I'm complaining, because I like Big Brother, but many people who watch Survivor don't watch Big Brother, and I didn't watch Big Brother for the longest time. So I kind of lost my train of thought here. So okay, so quick retrospective of the final five here, because I think we need to do that. Well, Sierra, nice person, but we got nothing out of her. Rodney definitely has some flaws, but I think we're going to forget about him, really. I mean, just, it's one of those things, bad, but irrecoverably bad? I think that's more Dan's territory, because Tyson mentioned that he sincerely doubts that Dan is ever going to play this game again, even though I think if you have the right arguments, you could argue that almost anybody could come back from this season. Very debatable, but I really do think that possibility is out there. Will, just did too much with Sharon. That's what doomed him, and it's not like Jervis, who at least was playing the game, but shot himself in the foot with his social gameplay. Will, yeah, definitely one of the people that had, no game this season, and even though his vote mattered, it just wasn't good. Carolyn, yeah, she put in a lot of effort, surprisingly, but it just didn't work out in the end. People's perception of her just apparently went down, really. A tad bit unfortunate, because she put in so much effort, and it was really, truly her own game. You know, sure there was Tyler, but I really feel like she was more responsible for him going than Mike. And then Mike, well, he had a flawed game, but he was in the driver's seat, and even though he got booted from the driver's seat, one of the few times I think we've ever seen that happen, he managed to keep on going, and not only did he get the trust of the people that he previously was against, he got half of his own supporters to come back to him because Tyler voted for him, Dan voted for him, Will might have voted for him in the right situation. You know? Yeah. So congrats, Mike, you deserve that one, big time. Blue collar triumphs, baby. I just have a lot of blue shirts. There's no real significance to this. Even though I have been wearing a blue shirt since episode 7 on, when I firmly admitted that I was supporting blue collar, yeah. And then that reunion, it wasn't that great of a reunion, but it's one of these times where, like, the reunion, you had to do specific things, you know? Because even though virtually all of it was spent on a couple of the finalists and then the mean guys, well, you kind of had to do that because it's just one of those things. And Survivor, at least, we get the ability to go back and discuss controversy, unlike Big Brother, where there's no reunion. So things that like happened in Big Brother's 9, 13, and 15 just go, oh, 16 just go, nothing resolves itself. Nothing. Kind of disappointing there. So I originally was going to complain about Jeff, but I've been thinking about it for the reunion and realized, you know what, I got no problems with what Jeff's doing there. Heck, I've actually got no real problems with what he's done this season. I mean, like, sure, you can argue there's the Sierra Dark Horse remark, then there's also the reunion, him not getting the fact that putting Michael Carroll in for next season would raise red flags, but I honestly don't feel like that there's really any problems with what he did there, because the second chances thing is about next season. I was setting myself up with a Dark Horse remark, and then the reunion where we kind of had to do that. So the only bad thing he did was state that this is one of the best seasons ever. And that's just because he liked the cast, but he did say that Kagayan would be pretty good, and it was for most people. I ranked it as the best season once I finished watching it this season. Definitely not one of the best ever, but I did like it. But it's got its problems, absolutely. So, where do I rank this season in the now 10 seasons after HVV? Well, last season I was having a battle with it in terms of do I rank it above or below Caramone. Now I'm having a battle of do I rank it above or below Blood vs. Water, because excuse me. What I've got to consider for this season is that it was definitely easier for me to talk about the season's cast here than Blood vs. Water, but there is definitely more flaws for this season in terms of the cast than the Blood vs. Water cast, in my eyes, even though the gameplay that we did here is a little more typical reality TV game than compared to Blood vs. Water, in my eyes. You could easily disagree with me there. And both of them didn't really have that great finales, although I'm more satisfied with this finale than Blood vs. Water, so well, I guess I've kind of made it obvious, so I'm definitely going to get some flack for this, but I'm going to place it above Blood vs. Water, so that means the new order is Cagayan, One World, South Pacific, Worlds Apart, Blood vs. Water, Caramon, San Juan del Sur, Redemption Island, Nicaragua, Philippines. Okay. Alright, so 24 minutes, I'm going to shut this off because I still got to talk about second chances. Sorry about this one being so long. I honestly did not expect that this one would stretch out as far as it has. Trust me, I thought this would be much shorter.